And here we go.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Jim Coyle with you. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Thursday, April 27th. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com and the great family of restaurants of Endeavor Hospitality in and around the Bloomington area, and including places like the Ugly Grouper on Anna Maria Island, Florida, but plenty of great places around the Bloomington area like BB's Market, your butcher baker, no matter where you live. Also coming soon, the Butcher's Cut, a new steakhouse right next door. So that'll be incredible. Welcome aboard, Dustin Schutte. On the program today, I believe Matt Taylor's joining us. Even though it's draft day, we'll have to confirm that. Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, Chris Denari. Lots going on with all kinds of things. Of course, Indiana basketball, we have that to talk about with Xavier Johnson. There's football talk. Like I've already mentioned, the draft tonight, the NBA playoffs are going on right now. You've got teams that are getting bounced. Man, there's just all kinds of stuff to talk about, Dustin. I don't even know where to start. But let's start where everybody would like to, of course, and we'll get back to this a little later. But Xavier Johnson's medical hardship waiver approved, or finally released, that it was approved by the NCAA. I not surprised, but trust me, I know the first thing out of anybody's mouth, because it's usually the first words out of my mouth, is really, like Dustin said yesterday, it's the NCAA. But no, because I had conversations with, and the Johnson family was confident that was going to go that way. Spoke with Xavier's dad yesterday. They are very happy. Or chatted with his dad yesterday. They're very happy, of course. So that's a piece off of Indiana's plate. Does that help with? I wonder if that helps. If that's been a problem, people are looking like, well, who's your point guard going to be? You know, that could have. I never even looked at it that way. I wouldn't have thought it, because I'm pretty sure the coaches were very confident as well. They had an idea which way this was going. So I'm pretty certain that would not have been the case, because they would have been able to tell them, hey, that's not going to be a problem. We're fully expecting to have him back.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would have been a determining factor negatively as to whether he'd be back or not. I don't know that played a huge role in some of these decisions from the transfer portal, but it is significant that Indiana gets him back, because there were a lot of uncertainty. I think a lot of people thought he was going to get that approved and he would be back next year. I think a lot of people were planning on that, but to have that reconfirmed and to have that okayed for next season is huge for Indiana, because now you've got a really good defender, a scorer, a distributor, and an experienced guy on the roster, a guy who knows what it's going to take to win at Indiana, a guy who's been in Mike Woodson's system, and we expect that it's going to look a little bit different. But I think he can kind of, I don't want to say transition into that leadership role, but he can be the leader of this team, and I think Indiana really needs that. So there's a lot of really good things, a lot of really positives to talk about when you talk about Xavier Johnson getting that medical hardship waiver approved. But more than anything, like his scoring ability, his ability to get to the basket, what he can do on the defensive end and pick up some of the opponent's top players, I think is huge for Indiana heading into next season. I don't think his uncertainty about whether or not he'd be back next season was a determining factor when it comes to the transfer portal, though. I can't imagine that would have been a big issue for anybody looking at Indiana as a possible place to go.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So there's that. But now we'll see what happens next, how they finish out the recruiting period and how they can fill out that roster. We'll get more on that later. Samson James, the rumors, as I said, they're true. And yesterday he was admitted to Indiana University and has been accepted as a walk-on onto the program. So that I'm sure that's going to stir a lot of conversation, but this is not Ohio State, people. You just don't, I'm telling you, you don't have, if this was somebody who had been in trouble with the law, it would be different. And not that I, as a coach, just from the outside, would think I would want that situation. I don't know what's going on inside. I haven't been privy to the conversations. So I'll leave it at that. But again, it's going to be a walk-on. To me, it's a win-win. If Tom Allen gets any production out of Samson James, it's a win because he's a walk-on, not giving up any scholarships. And if he doesn't, you've got a pretty good scout team player.
I mean, those are good points. I don't necessarily disagree with them. Where I'm concerned is, and we talked about this, I don't know if it was last week or earlier this week, but what has Tom Allen, and you mentioned this, what has Tom Allen built the program on? It's about being all in, right? It's about Indiana.
Oh, I've said it over and over.
Yeah. And Samson James has been maybe the least bought in player in terms of entering the transfer portal, leaving to go to Purdue. Now he wants back in. I just don't know how dependable he can be. And I'm not trying to knock the kid. I don't know his situation. I don't know the circumstances. I don't know anything about it. So I'm not trying to assume. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. And how much can you depend on a guy who's been basically with one foot out the door his entire career? I mean, he committed to Ohio State, then he flipped to Indiana. I think after his first year, he entered the transfer portal and decided to come back. Then he entered the transfer portal at another point in his career. So this is the third time he's entered the transfer portal, the second time he's transferred. I just don't know how dependable he can be. And it makes me wonder about some of those guys that have played with him before. Are they going to welcome him back with open arms and say, hey, we know you made a mistake. Let's get after it this season. Or are they going to be resentful and be like, why are we letting this guy back on the team? He left us. It's a tough situation, but to your point, Jim, Tom Allen, this speaks to me to his desperation and knowing they have to win and get back on track this season. Because as you mentioned, it's not Ohio State. They're not Michigan. They don't have the luxury of raking in 4- and 5-star prospects on a regular basis like those other programs. Like, he's got to find a diamond in the rough. And if he still believes Samson James can be the diamond in the rough, but the bottom line too is it's not going to make a whole hell of a lot of difference as to who's in the backfield if you don't get better on the offensive line. So there's that aspect of it too.
And there's anyone that doesn't already know, most of that is not paying attention to IU football. So that's that. And well, I'll let that. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on it. We'll see how it works out. Let's see. What else do I want to talk about in regards to Indiana football, though? They did land a commitment from TCU transfer offensive guard Noah Boltikoff, and they can always use help on the O-line. He's a former 3-star recruit in the class of 21. He signed with TCU over K-State, Kansas, other Power 5 offers. He was a redshirt freshman, 21, before playing in 6 games. So they will have plenty of time with him. So they picked somebody up on that line. A.J. Moye, former Indiana basketball player, named as an assistant at Valpo. Congratulations to A.J. And I understand that he had been offered and accepted the head coaching job at my alma mater at Floyd Central High School, and then was offered this position as an assistant coach at Valpo, of which he accepted. So my alma mater was this close to having A.J. Moye as the head coach.
That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah. How about it? But it was not to be. Man, that would have been something. A.J.'s he spent his time. He's been out in L.A. working at was it Mamba 2 Academy or Mamba? I forget the name of it, but it was Kobe's academy. He was close with Kobe. I don't know. Is that academy still up and running now?
Good question. I don't know. I would assume so.
But I know that AJ has been wanting to get into coaching. He's been wanting to get back towards Indiana. He would love to get to Indiana, in Bloomington specifically. But that's another former IU guy. And these aren't recent guys. Dusty May. This is how long this is coaching.
Mm-hmm.
This is for people that think that coaching is, these worlds are so great. AJ Moye. When did he play in college? 2002. He was on the 2002 Final Four team.
Right.
Michael Lewis.
Yep.
At Ball State. He played before A.J. Moye in the mid-90s. Keith Smart is an assistant at Arkansas in the 80s. A.J. or whomever. There was Dusty May was a manager in the 80s. No, in the 90s. But that's the time length, people.
Takes a while.
It takes a while. We've got to take a break. We've got a lot lined up today and a lot to get to, a lot to talk about, and a lot of people to talk with. We're going to get to it right now. Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by BB's Market. And we're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Do you know what I'm having for a snack?
It looked like some sort of breakfast sandwich.
Nope.
What is that? A turkey sandwich?
Nope.
Ham.
I have no idea.
Mortadello.
Mortadello.
It's like an Italian bologna.
Ah.
Oh, for breakfast?
No, this is not breakfast. We don't do this is not a morning show, by the way.
Well, we're not. We're on YouTube. We're not live on the radio at the moment.
My body is always on air time.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
I was cautious before I mentioned it.
But this has slices of pistachios in it.
Did you do that yourself?
The hell no.
This sounds horrendous.
It's amazing.
Pistachios and bologna. This sounds like some sort of olive loaf type of ish.
My grandma used to eat
Good.
peanut butter and bologna sandwiches.
Oh God.
Well, that's probably not terrible. I've heard worse.
This is
Like putting mayonnaise on peanut butter or something. That would be gross.
Yeah.
Or ketchup. There's people that do that stuff. But this is just your basic bologna sandwich in essence. Now, you really want to make it good.
Fine Italian.
And when you're making a sandwich, grill the bread, but grill it with mayonnaise, not butter. That came from a chef, you eye-rolling, non-cooking.
I'm not doing it. I'm not a huge. I don't hate mayonnaise, but I don't love mayonnaise.
You don't even
can't
cook.
taste it. I do cook. I cook very good.
All right, guys. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, draft day. I'm eligible. I'm not expecting to hear my name called tonight, but who will the Colts pick? That is going to be what everyone was waiting with bated breath. The first two picks, are they going to go down as we think that they are with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud? Is C.J. Stroud going to hold up through his apparent S2 eval fumblings? I don't think that's going to affect him. I think he stays where he is.
Well, I think
he just looks too good on the field.
I think what people need to remember about a lot of this stuff, the negative stuff that comes out about these players usually is done purposefully. It's usually leaked out by teams that want those guys to fall so that they have a chance to draft them. So I don't know.
That.
I don't know.
But this was a widespread thing.
Well, I understand that, but people.
But I hear you what you're saying.
So I heard a really good draft analyst make this comment.
There is a good draft analyst.
There is a good draft analyst. He made this comment, and basically,
who would that be? If we're good, you can.
Thor Nystrom, right. And so his evaluation of it was basically a hypocritical type of thing in that throughout C.J. Stroud's career at Ohio State, one of the things he does extremely well is work through his progressions. 1, 2, 3. He can read the progression. So the S2, the negative talk about the S2 test or whatever it is, would seem to indicate that he can't do that he can't work through his progressions. So you've already seen that he can do that on the field with the ball in his hands at the quarterback position. So
I also saw I don't know if it was a GM, and these are all unnamed, the anonymous, but they said, and this is the funniest comment I've seen. He might have had the best receiving core at Ohio State that he's going to have in his career.
Well,
that was a great. That's a great quote, man.
That's true. So this is where the concerns come in for the Ohio State quarterbacks all the time, outside of maybe Justin Fields, is that they always have great receivers. I mean, always have great receivers. I go back to that 2014 team when they won the college football playoff with Cardell Jones, a third-string quarterback. It's because all he had to do was get the ball up there, and those receivers were going to come down with it. Michael Thomas, Devin Smith. There were a lot of really good players on that team, and that's the same case for Ohio State pretty much every single year. So the difference – he's going to have good receivers wherever he goes. The difference is – the defensive backs are a lot better in the NFL. So are they going to be able to create as much space? So we'll see what happens. I don't know. There's been a stigma against Ohio State quarterbacks that they are not successful in the league. Cardell Jones.
Fields is kind of
JT Barrett. Justin Fields is kind of Justin Fields. I think he's going to pop that narrative.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're kind of waiting to see does he change that, because he's he's playing well, and he's doing it on a team that's not exactly a winner. So that does two things. It makes it more difficult, but it also is baptism by fire.
Yep.
Think back, who went through that? Peyton Manning.
Yep. And Justin Fields he's got an awful offensive line. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know that the Colts are going to I don't think CJ Stroud's going to fall. I think he'll still be the number 2 pick in the draft, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see whether the Colts take a shot on Anthony Richardson or Will Levis, or if they don't select a quarterback. I can't imagine they won't, but it's going to be interesting.
Well, the only way they don't select a quarterback is if they trade. You're not keeping the number 4 pick and not taking a quarterback. What the hell else are you going to take?
I don't know. I've seen
you're
crazier
not
things happen.
You're not keeping the number 4 pick to not use it on a franchise changing player. You'll trade that pick. You'll either, and we've talked about the potential of them. And I forget who it was I asked about it on here, but do they kind of not fold the season, but roll the dice on this season and wait until next year when there are much better quarterback options and their options would be much better. I know that people are saying, no, you got to take a quarterback. Well, really? Do you? Why? They've sucked. They've had some sucky seasons. What the hell's one more so season? If that puts you on a path of the trajectory that you need to be on, because actually, not only could they get a quarterback that they want next year, they could probably end up getting a lot more than that by stockpiling.
They could trade that number 4 pick and load up on other positions. The problem then becomes, are they going to be bad enough to where they're in a position to...
Well, they'll already have them. They won't have to be bad. They'll already have the picks secured.
Well, that's
the
true.
Trades.
What's interesting is I think Arizona is in that number 3 spot, right? And so they don't need a quarterback because they've got Kyler Murray.
They're picking like an edge rusher or something.
Right, but are they going to trade that pick? Can they stockpile?
Well, that's always a possibility. Well, that's not stockpiling so much as somebody else trying to jump over the Colts.
Right. And take a third quarterback. But
is there a team that needs a quarterback that badly to take a quarterback that we don't know who the third quarterback is? Normally it's like, okay, that if there's top 4, which we kind of know the top 4, but the top 4 are not usually the top 4. There's a top 2 right now.
Right.
So is anyone going to trade up for a question mark quarterback unless it's another position that they desperately need?
Right. I doubt it. I don't think it's going to happen, but it creates a level of intrigue for the Colts and for the NFL draft tonight. So that's something to keep an eye on. Like I said, if the top 3 quarterbacks are off the board, that's where I would say the Colts may not go QB here because maybe they don't have the faith in Will Levis. I don't know. This is a very interesting, but a not very deep draft class, I would say. So
5 left says funny. Do we believe our lion eyes or a test? I hear you. I believe you. I hear. I'm with 5. Love to know where that some unique names. I love some of the unique names that people come up with. I'm never smart enough to do that. I just always use acronyms or initials. I love to know the derivative of some of these names, how they came about. Just curious. But yeah, there's that. Appreciate everyone on. People from all over. Fred from the Easton Assassin, Easton, Pennsylvania. Man, Fred, you've got to get Larry Holmes on for me. Larry Holmes is from Easton, Pennsylvania. Easton Assassin. Sam, from Winter Garden, Florida. You know who lives in Winter Garden? Damn it. That was no, it's a celebrity. Yeah. But someone that meant something to me yesterday that I saw, and daggone it if I can remember. But I was talking about the NBA. We mentioned the NBA playoffs, and I know there's not a ton of NBA fans here, but first of all, Milwaukee had a league high 58 wins this year with Giannis Antetokounmpo. And why is it I can say Giannis Antetokounmpo all day long, twice on Sunday without a problem? His name's like this long. And I know you can't see me holding up my hands about a foot apart, but it's not that hard to say. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Anyway, they gone.
They're done.
They gone. And they had an elimination home game.
Yeah.
And I'm not done. And they had a 16-point fourth quarter lead. Amazing.
Yep. But Jimmy Butler does Jimmy Butler things.
I'll tell you who else is looking decent. First of all, I didn't know the damn Lakers made the Matt's here. So I guess we got to go pick up Matt. I didn't see he had joined us. We'll get back to that discussion. There we go. Matt, how are you, brother?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
Oh, absolutely. I was just talking about some NBA stuff there, but earlier had been talking about little party tonight.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I'm posted up at home, and I'm using the home studio for the first time in a long time, and I had some technical issues, so I apologize that I'm late.
No worries. I assumed that you were
better
locked
late
down
than
in
never.
always. I assumed you were locked down in the bunker, man. Down below, like 10 floors below Lucas Oil Stadium is where they have the draft bunker room.
Yeah, they're posted up in a little tunnel, and then they give the pick to a troll, and then the troll climbs up the ladder out of the tunnel, and then courier pigeons the pick to Kansas City tonight, flies it to Roger Goodell. He unfurls it like a scroll and says, with the fourth pick, the Indianapolis Colts select. And then your TV feed, it dies right then and there, and then your phone loses connection. You don't know what's going on Twitter. Then you're running outside, you're banging on your neighbor's door. He's not home, so you have no idea what's going on. It's going to be epic.
Or if you are able to hear it, in some homes there's going to be beer bottles flying through TVs, and on other ones,
I hope not.
Champagne bottles popping.
Yeah.
You never make everybody happy.
Yeah, that's right. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Isn't that what they say? Especially this time of year. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully we get most of Colts fans and people around here in Central Indiana happy tonight. I think most will be, because the consensus is that they will draft a quarterback. We don't know until it actually happens tonight. But I think a lot of people just in that will be happy that, they have some, hopefully, perhaps have found some franchise stability in a young rookie quarterback trying to get off the veteran carousel. The fact that the Colts are going to have, if it's Gardner Minshew or a rookie quarterback this upcoming fall, 7 straight seasons with a different starting quarterback. But yeah, hopefully in 5 years, we're looking back on this time and saying, wow, that was a really big moment, kind of a big milestone for the Colts and the success that they have had in the last 5 years. Hopefully that's the conversation we're going to have, and it all starts tonight, and see what they do and the type of guy they bring in the top 5.
Yeah, we were I was telling the fans earlier when you came on, you were going to let us know who that pick was going to be. We'll wait till the end. We'll wait till the end to let that one out of the bag. Just kidding, everybody. How many people think that you actually know? And it's not that you don't know things, but there's just so much that it goes on so fast and changes so fast that what a decision that was made when you're in a conversation, you could actually be in a conversation and a decision is made, and 5 minutes later it's the opposite.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, believe it or not, they're not letting the radio guy in the draft room. It's shocking to me. I think it's bogus. I think it's BS, to be honest with you. I'm going to bang on doors.
It's information, baby. You got to have it.
Hypothetically, like if I'm at the water cooler, if I'm getting a splash of Diet Coke and I see a scout or I see a personnel member, like whatever they change based on the information they now have and the amount of digging that they do on all of these guys. So I think perception kind of, I don't know if it changes, but it's definitely evolving all the way up until tonight, believe it or not. So, I actually like the fact that I don't know. I like it that I don't know, because then I kind of get to be a fan like everybody else. You know, when
digging it, I'm the same way.
Even if I could know, I don't know if I would want to know, because in a lot of instances in life, ignorance is bliss. And the fact that I can come on this show and tell you that I don't know and not have to lie about it, there's something to that. And I like the fact that there's going to be just drama and anticipation coming up tonight. I mean, I kind of joked earlier, like how cool is it that we're going to have to be like hanging on every syllable when Roger Goodell is up there, right? He could say, with the 4th pick, the Colts select CJ. It could be Will. It could be and right. I mean, it's going to be awesome to kind of like read lips and anticipate how this goes. And I when the Colts are on the board, I purposely avoid Twitter, because you always have these Twitter bots out there that get the picks, maybe like 5 to 7 minutes, like right when they're turned in, and then somebody at Kansas City's the mole, somebody's the leak, out there, and obviously the TV's not going to report those in real time, but you can find them if you want to. I don't like doing that. I like being a fan. I like finding out in real time and having that like authentic, organic reaction to what happened. So from that standpoint, I'm excited. I do not know who the Colts are picking. I've talked to a bazillion people. I've done chats. I've done interviews. I've done public speaking. That's all anybody wants to know. I do not know. We'll all find out tonight.
Matt, you mentioned kind of being on the edge of the seat, hanging on every syllable that Roger Goodell, is coming out of his mouth. When was the last time the Colts were in this kind of position where, I mean, a lot of times you don't know who the draft pick is going to be, but it seems like this feels bigger than most years. And I think you can go back to previous seasons where you knew they were going to draft Andrew Luck, or it was going to come down to Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf, or, we experienced certain situations like that, but where they have the number 4 pick and you don't really know, there's a lot of suspense, there's a lot of excitement. What can you think of a time the Colts have been in this position recently?
No, I can't. Like you said, I mean, the last couple of times the Colts have been this high, it's been in fact number 1 overall, where they've been able to kind of have their pick of the litter and not trading up to number 1. You're going to get a franchise player regardless of the position, but you don't have, your fate completely in control tonight. So tonight is actually going to be only the second time in the last 20 years the Colts pick in the top 5. A couple years ago, they were in that position. They traded back. They went from 3 to 6 in 2018 and grabbed Quentin Nelson. That was that Sam Darnold trade. But to be in the top 5, it's been a long time. So I think the Colts, this is sort of like the reward. It sounds stupid to say, but this is what you get. This is what you earn when you go 4-12-1. And the fact that you went 4-12-1 and you had some offensive issues, to say the least, you had some defensive issues down the stretch of last season. I think, all 3 phases of the team last year contributed to them being here. And with that, you can say they're no longer just a quarterback away. They can't really justify any longer going the Phillip Rivers route or the Carson Wentz route or the Matt Ryan route. So they need to have some stability here. They're in a position to do it. So with that, you have to capitalize while you're here, while trying to not be here for a long time, and win some football games in a crowded AFC. So that's what they're trying to get accomplished tonight, and trying to hopefully again in 6-7 years not have to wonder and worry about who's playing quarterback like they have since 2019, August 24th of that year. But who's counting, right? So it's very exciting tonight in that they continue to lay some cement on the foundation of this offseason. First big piece was Shane Steichen. Now we'll see what happens at quarterback. But any success they have going forward for the next couple of years is going to start with tonight and be defined and traced back to this moment.
I love that. Add some cement to the foundation.
That is good. That is good.
That man,
he's
how long have you been?
Blind squirrel finds a nut from a literacy standpoint every once in a while, boys.
That's a keeper. That's one of those key. I got to see if I was a great mind like yours that I could remember those great things. I think I think at the age of 20 I started the onset of dementia. It's I can't remember Jack, but it's those great nuggets. The great one. Man, so do you have all your snacks ready at the reach, within arm's reach? The popcorn, the Chex Mix, the water bottle, or do you got the hat with the water on it so you don't even have to use the hands? What's the setup for draft night, man?
Yeah, I got
the backpack or the like the water boy, deal. Yeah. So we got something like that going.
I'm ready. I got the beer bong ready. It's going to be between picks, we're shotgunning beers every 5 minutes. We're going to see how much fun we can have tonight in the first round. Make it epic, right? Turn it into a memory. Got the snacks ready, and try to have some discipline tonight, because it's going to be a long night. We're going to do the entire first round. Then we're going to recap the Colts pick. We're going to do some podcasts late at night so that people can have some reflection content, if you will, for their drive to work tomorrow morning on Friday. So it's going to be a late night. So you got to kind of pace yourself on the amount of intake you have throughout the course of the night. So I'll put the snacks at bay, kind of at our arm's length, so I have some self-discipline, but I'm excited about it.
Where just so the people know, as always, where can the fine folks find all of the information that will be coming out from you and the rest of the Colts media, Colts media, but the Colts productions after tonight's draft?
We are doing a live draft show tonight starting at 7. So from 7 to 8, sort of our pre-draft show. Draft starts at 8. We're with you all the way until the end of the first round tonight. We're going to be streaming Colts.com, the Colts mobile app, but then also radio-wise in Indianapolis on our flagship station, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. That's where you can find us on radio. But again, stream anywhere, Colts.com and the Colts mobile app. And then we'll do it again tomorrow as well. So we're live pick by pick with you, rounds 1 through 3. Tomorrow we start at 7. That's when the second round of the draft starts. And then we're with you all the way until the end of the third round. Again, same deal. Colts.com, the mobile app, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. So basically, if you're in Indy, tune it in on radio. If you're anywhere else, go the streaming route. And we're incredibly excited about it. So glad it's here. So tired of talking about the same stuff for 4.5 months. We kind of put all that speculation to bed and talk about, again, concrete answers and definitive players that are now playing for the Colts.
Phillips suggested that they should have kept Jeff Saturday for one more year to tank and then come back, because we did have a conversation. I know it's not going to happen, but this is kind of a weird year with quarterbacks. Usually there's kind of a top 3 or 4, and there is a top 3 or 4, but really it's a top 2. Then there's this little separation. It doesn't mean a lot because no one can predict the future. We know that, but the thought of, and I know waiting no one would be able to do that, but if they were able to hold off and trade that and just set themselves up for a monster first round next year, that I know that it's so different, but that could change the trajectory of a franchise.
Well, let me jump in here though, but there's never, especially at quarterback, there's never a guarantee. And you look at, somebody mentioned Sam in the comments mentioned Brock Purdy dropped all the way down to Mr. Irrelevant, and he was the third string quarterback, and he ended up leading the San Francisco 49ers to the NFC Championship game. So there are no guarantees, even though we don't like this, and I don't think this is the greatest quarterback class we've ever seen. There are no guarantees. You could have a guy in the middle of the third or fourth round who ends up being maybe not a Peyton Manning, but a 10 to 12 year starter and get you to the playoffs regularly. So there's no, and you could have a guy that you select number 1 or number 2 overall. Look at Ryan Leaf's career. A lot of people wanted him over Peyton Manning.
Correct. No, that's right. I mean, for every, Josh Allen and, Patrick Mahomes, there's 4 to 5 EJ Manuels and Sam Darnolds and Baker Mayfields and Josh Rosen. So
right.
I always go back to, if finding a franchise quarterback was so freaking easy, everybody would have one.
Right.
Okay. And I know quarterbacks get pushed up the board because of the importance of the position, and the nature of the draft is teams get desperate and they move up to grab a guy. But I think there's a balance. I really do. And that's what this entire, portion of time between January and now has been about for the Colts, is we have to stick to our principles in that we can't force this pick. We can't draft flawed prospects just because we're at 4 and we need a quarterback, and that's what you're supposed to do. But at the same time, we understand what it can do for your roster if you find the right guy at quarterback and be able to build around that player for 3 to 4 years because of the economics and the roster construction that a young rookie quarterback affords you on a rookie contract. You don't have to pay him like you are paying Patrick Mahomes or, eventually, Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. You have a lot of flexibility if you find the right young rookie quarterback, and you have a little bit of a window of opportunity if you have a good roster around him, which I think the Colts, for the most part, still do. I mean, you look at DeForest Buckner and Shaq Leonard and Jonathan Taylor and Quentin Nelson and Michael Pittman and Braden Smith. These are some players at really important positions that are in the primes of their career. And so you still have to kind of balance that and recognize that and try to capitalize on that. And so to your point, if you say, screw it, we're not going to take a quarterback this year, even though we're at 4 and the quarterbacks aren't slam dunks. They're not John Elways or Trevor Lawrence's or Andrew Luck's. We'll trade back and we'll just go for it for next year. Well, first of all, you're going to have a really pissed off locker room because all of those guys still want to play. They still want to win. And you're just wasting prime years of their careers in their contracts, right? The whole point of the draft is to draft well, develop, and re-sign your own and build up the guys you want to be a part of this team and the culture that you're trying to build. So, yeah, it sounds good on paper to tank and suck and be able to have a lot of draft picks to move up and get a quarterback next year, but nothing's guaranteed. The NFL stands for not for long, as I always say. So just because that's your plan doesn't mean it's going to work out like that. There's so many other variables that can screw you out of that mindset. So the Colts are trying to find the guy they're most convicted about in this quarterback class, make it work with Shane Steichen, who's had success with a lot of different quarterbacks in his time in the NFL, and try to, again, get off of this carousel of veteran guys and compete in a very crowded AFC.
That's you just put it perfectly, my friend, to make it very easily understandable for us morons. So thank you. And I love some of the responses. We've got some really, really quick-witted responders over in the comments. 5 lefts at the end of your earlier your great little soliloquy you gave. 5 lefts added, at the end, Roger Goodell reads the tablets and then accidentally drops them, and the Colts wander in wilderness for 40 seasons.
Oh boy, yeah.
Not that that's going to happen. I
still think
thought it was funny.
Yeah, the carrier pigeon still is a good backup, though. Just go back to the pigeon.
Absolutely.
Get the scroll. The scroll still has all the answers.
Kind of like a dove, like the dove.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, brother, we can't wait to next time we talk to you. Guess what? We're going to know all of this. We'll know everything there is to know.
Yep. We'll all be in a better mood. I think right now we're on edge. We're agitated. We're getting under each other's skin with all these hypotheticals. Yeah, hopefully we'll be in a better mental space, I think, next Thursday.
It's fun. Last day, the movie Draft Day. You've been around it enough. How accurate is that? Towards especially the draft scenes.
I mean, I think there's a lot of certainly there's some embellishment, there's some Hollywood involved in it, but I think at its core, it's a good movie as it tries to portray all the different paralysis by analysis and overthinking that might happen in the 11th hour by all these GMs and the constant phone calls and I'll give you this if you give me that, but this needs to happen first. I mean, I think that part is very accurate. You know, all the different things that a guy like Chris Ballard tonight is going to have to juggle and be aware of. Not only do you have to understand your board and stay true to that, but then also you have to have a good pulse on the rest of the league, especially all the teams in the first round around you that can impact you. Obviously, the teams, the first 3 picks in front of the Colts, but then you need to know, sort of the desperation thermometer of all the other teams that could potentially leapfrog you in a trade. I think that the Draft Day movie in that sense does a good job of portraying the chaos and all of the different variables that people, I mean, there's that scene where he trades back or he doesn't pick whatever the plot was. He doesn't pick the quarterback because none of his teammates showed up to his draft day party. And that was a big red flag. Like that part is 100% true. Like that's how much overthinking and tiny detail intricacy thought process goes into the draft by these GMs. Like I don't want to say overthink, but they want to know why everything is happening when it comes to your personality, your skill ability on the field. They just want to know every little thing about you before they, quite frankly, invest so profoundly in you. Because if they screw it up, it's not only the franchise that gets hosed, but they're probably going to be out of a job in a couple of years if they don't get some of these picks at the top of the draft right.
And there is a team in front of the Colts yet that could make a trade because they are not in need of a quarterback. But I don't know who out there is in as desperate enough of a need to trade to get a question mark type quarterback, because this is a wonky draft. It's weird. They're all fun and weird, but this just seems to be, maybe it's because the Colts are a little bit more invested in this pick. I'm not sure, but man, we're looking forward to it. I can't thank you enough. Send us pictures. We'll be looking for photos. Have the photos carrier pigeoned out. The secret, the secret encrypted passageway and all that good stuff.
You got it. I appreciate you guys. It's going to be fun. Yeah, check out Colts.com. Colts mobile app, all the social media channels for the pictures and the stream tonight. Should be a great time.
Make sure you give Matt a follow and follow the Colts as they solidify what's happening next year. Matt, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, boys. Have a good one.
Great. Matt Taylor, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts, joining us here on this Thursday. It is draft day. So getting a lot of draft talk in there. Appreciate him joining us each and every Thursday. So next week, we will know who they're talking about. Or who they picked, so we'll get that. We've got to take a break. I think we're late. Is that right, RC? All right, we'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
That's funny. We're getting some great comments. You guys are funny. How do I amuse you? Like a clown?
Quiet cat. He's
funny.
obnoxious.
That's funny. Hey, I'll take a cat over a dog any day, man.
I have both. I got this good boy golden retriever right here. You take a cat over him.
They don't sit around and bark.
Well, the cat makes more noise than the dog does, as you can hear. Here's a stupid cat.
Oh, that's a cute cat though.
Good looking cat, man. What color?
It is.
He's
Gray and white. How can you
really
not like
blue
that cat? It's a beautiful cat.
From the we adopted.
I had the coolest cat, man. I picked him up at a bar.
Did you really?
Because I needed a barn cat at the time, and he was just hanging out. I was married at the time. It was kind of funny, and my wife said, "I told you we needed a barn cat, not a bar cat." But he was silver with 4 white socks. Aww. And he was hilarious. That dude would I'd go out in the pasture, go check fences or something. That son bitch would follow me out there like a dog. out in the fields. I'm like, it's hilarious. Damn it. Yeah. I wish I still had that dude, but that's been a minute.
All right, fellas. That's a good story, Jim. What was its name before we go live?
Kelsey, because the name of the bar was Kelsey's.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Do you remember Kelly Minsterman? That made me think of him, basketball player from Evansville Modern Day.
I do not.
All right. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. It's April 27th. I hope you're having a great week. If not, it's almost over. So you don't have to worry about it. But hope you're having a good time. Looking forward to talking to Dylan Sinn, Chris Denari as well here. Lots to talk about as we've have been already. Xavier Johnson, his hardship waiver has been approved. We'll talk more about that with Dylan when he joins us. Indiana still now, though, in need. They have 3 open scholarships, 3 openings, and they need wing players. Now, could they get away with one just pure knockdown shooter? Yeah, I think so. I do. I think that they have enough talent that you have to depend on Caleb Banks getting better.
And CJ Gunn.
And well, yeah, but I'm talking about a wing right now. I consider CJ more of a yes, he could play the 3, but I consider him a 2, a shooting guard. But from the wing standpoint, you have to count on Caleb Banks. And I say that because of what I saw last year. He wants to play. That there were guys that I don't know that I can say that about. And everybody wants to play. But when I say he wants to play, between the lines, he's willing to do whatever it takes to get that done. He's going to do the hard work. He's going to put in the time. You just get that from him. So I'm kind of expecting Caleb Banks to take a step up because of that, because of the bar he has set for, in my eyes, which is great. The bar has to be set higher. Everybody has to set the bar higher. The team has to set the bar higher. The coaches have to set the bar higher because you have to set it as high as reasonably possible and maybe just outside of that, because you have to reach as high as you possibly can. And even if you fail, you might fail being better than you would have been had you not set your sights high enough. Sounds like a damn philosophical discussion today.
It went from basketball to a life message real quick.
But it's the truth. It is the truth with everything. It truly is. If on a basketball court or whatever, but if you have 5 guys, those guys have to be putting in everything it takes to win. You can't phone it in. You can't. You have to play hard every game. Mm-hmm. And Indiana did not have that last year. Caleb Banks, he is not one of those guys. He's one of those guys. If you have 5 of him at positions, or Xavier's one of those guys. And Xavier Johnson, Caleb Banks, Peyton Sparks. We've seen the kind of energy he has and bring it in. Malik Renew is good, but they still need energy and from the wing and rebounding and scoring. But yes, CJ Gunn's he's got to improve his 3-point accuracy. He's a good 3-point shooter. He's a good shooter. His first season, very, very poor shooting stats are just a result of freshmen forcing some things, probably taking shots he could have gotten away with in high school, but no longer can in college because the defense is better, faster, and just forcing things a little bit. And then you top it off with, you're in an offense. He's always been in an offense that was conducive to him shooting the 3.
Mm-hmm.
This was not that offense at all. Any 3-point shots that came about were by accident. So
I think this is probably the most important year for Mike Woodson in terms of developing.
Absolutely.
In terms of developing, especially because you didn't get, well, at least as of right now, they have not gotten what they wanted to get out of the transfer portal. You've got to show, and this will help not only in the recruiting front, but also in the transfer portal in the future. If you can show, if guys take a sizable step in the right direction, and we see CJ Gunn make big leaps, if we see Caleb Banks make big leaps, even guys like Trey Galloway, and I'm not saying he's going to be the next Jordan Holes, but if you can see guys take that next big step in their game and Indiana improves because of it, that's what's got to happen. You've reached a point where you can't really, in my eyes at this point, you can't depend on the transfer portal now. Like the guys that you targeted, the guys that you thought would fit, passed you up. So now you've got to develop that talent. And this is going to be a real test. It's going to be a real eye-opener because I think if Indiana struggles and these guys are the same player that they were last year and we start to see a recurring theme that we saw under Archie Miller, it's going to be a tough road ahead for Indiana. I don't expect that's going to be the case. I think that this is a better staff, a more experienced staff. I think they know what they're doing. I think they were, I don't want to say handcuffed, but they knew what they had with Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson and Xavier Johnson coming into this season. But now you've got to get your offense in gear. You've got to get guys to shoot the basketball more comfortable. That's thousands of jump shots in the offseason. And you got to get them to a point where they're comfortable. And if they're not able to do that, I think they're going to pay a price in the transfer portal next year and maybe even on the recruiting trail. If they can do it, they'll be able to reap some benefits, not only in being a good team on the floor next season, but then more players are going to say, you know what, I can go to Indiana, I can get developed, and I can get onto the NBA. And, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to have a chance to compete for a Big Ten championship and maybe a Final Four.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with these 3 final spots. They're not done in the portal, and there are players out there. It would be nice. Here's what they should do. They should not tell certain people who they're talking to, and they could do it in private. But sometimes that's taken care of in other ways. But I think that's probably happening a little bit now because it's embarrassing for them. That's an embarrassment to lose out on someone you go all in on. And they went all in on those two guards and lost both of them. But not only did they lose both of them, they lost them both to the same school, which is still amazing to me. But that's beside the point. See how they finish out filling out this roster. I think they're in good shape. They've got good complementary pieces. They've got pieces that you have to count on already. You've secured the middle. You've got Khalil Ware and Malik Renew and Peyton Sparks. The energy is going to be vastly increased next year. I think that Peyton Sparks is kind of electric.
Can I hit the pause button on that really quick?
Because absolutely.
We said this. I think we said the same thing about last year, because
we may have
the energy that we talked about, that with Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson, and a lot of guys were talking about how they wanted to win a Big Ten title.
Well, but I'm talking about, when I say energy, I'm talking about not being a stagnant offense that is just run through the post and race. This is not a Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis type team. You don't have those players anymore.
No, I agree.
These guys are very different. Peyton Sparks and Khalil Ware. Khalil Ware may be kind of a version of Trace Jackson Davis, but maybe a more athletic Trace Jackson Davis, and a bigger Trace Jackson Davis, height-wise. But Peyton Sparks is much more active than, say, Race Thompson is. So I think that it's going to be different in that way. And hopefully the offense will be able to be a lot more open the spacing in the lanes, which will open opportunities for driving opportunities for Xavier Johnson, for Trey Galloway and people like that. But it's going to be hey, they've got to develop too. But you've got 3 spots. They'll fill them. They're going to get somebody. There are guys out there. And why worry? Why? There's nothing worrying can't change the deal.
That's very true. That's very true.
Look and see. Make sure. We're looking forward to talking to Dylan Sinn today. I think he comes up next. Chris Denari as well. Hubers, the annual Hubers event, for those of you that live in Southern Indiana, May 31st. That's a Wednesday. Better hit word to the wise for those of you, if you any intentions on going. This hasn't been released yet, but just get your tickets soon. As in yesterday. $50 a person. It's like it's always been. $50 a person, $1,000 a 10-person table. And it sells out. There will be about, I don't know, I think it holds like 600. You'd enjoy. Hubers is for those that have not been, that's my home stomping area. But in Starlight, Indiana, it's in Clark County. Actually, I'm from Floyd County, but it's out in the country on the backside, so we kind of meet. But anyway, winery, vineyards, they make all kinds of their own alcohol now, including bourbon. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, they have their own bourbon. I'm a big fan. But they make vodka. Maybe gin, but they've been making wine for a long time. And the funny thing is, there's Joe Huber's, which is right down the road, literally a quarter of a mile, but it's different. They're brothers. It's not the same. So there's there. Heath asking about whatever happened to the IU UK schedule talk. Well, it just, thank God, died down because until it happens, there's nothing to say. And I might get you on you, Heath. Maybe it's a good question. There's nothing to say until it happens. It's going to happen. I will guarantee you. And I've already predicted this once. Everybody forgets this. Indiana is in a series with Kansas right now, a home and home, one-time home and home series. This year, when Kansas comes to Simon Scott Assembly Hall to replay the home visit Indiana made last year, I think that series will be replaced with Kentucky. Mark
Probably.
that down.
That would make sense.
The Kansas series will be replaced with Kentucky in a new, I'm not going to say long-term deal, but
do you think once Calipari is gone, it's going to be an annual thing again every year?
I think it's going to be an annual thing again as soon as the Kansas series is over.
Okay. I'm on board with it. I think everybody is. Maybe, I don't know, but it was just such a good non-conference game.
Such a good. It doesn't get any better than Indiana and Kentucky. I'm sorry, Duke, North Carolina fans, you're Johnny-come-latelys. These are both blue blood programs that have been winning national championships since the advent of the NCAA in the 40s. So right. The Indiana-Kentucky game, back in the day, Bob Knight's earliest years, he was coaching against Adolph Rupp. That doesn't happen much these days.
Well,
of course, it's hard to know because I know you have to predict that, but even like if you're looking like who's the great young coach that's coming up, we talk about Musselman a lot, but hasn't won anything. Bob Knight went to the freaking Final Four in his third season in Bloomington in 73, I think. Am I correct? Then, of course, was there. Of course, didn't make it in 75, but should have won a national championship in 75, as they did in 76, as they should have gone undefeated for 2 straight years. That would have been within his first 5 years on the damn job.
Yep. He was, 5 Final Fours, first one 1973.
That's remarkable.
Now you got me thinking as to is there a young coach that would rival that? Because looking back, we're gonna talk about
you're talking
matchups.
But you'd have to be talking about a young coach that could rival becoming the all-time winningest coach in college basketball history with Bob Knight did.
Right. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know.
But he also changed the game. In his offense, which can't be duplicated. His motion offense, which was just too difficult for people. And now anybody can, not just anybody, but defense can be taught. But he was a genius. Now he had his issues and his problems. I'm not ignoring that. I'll always talk about that. He could be a dick. There's just no other way to put it.
Yeah, correct. 100% agree.
He was also a genius.
Right.
On that side. And there's no disputing that. And not every good coach is a genius.
No.
Damn it. Eric Musselman, I don't consider him. He's not a genius.
It's hard to tell.
I don't know. I don't think that Mike Krzyzewski was a genius. I think he was a very smart. I think he was a very smart guy who learned great things, but was a great teacher. Bob Knight was a good teacher, but man, his students, quote unquote, players, they had to funnel through a lot of stuff sometimes to get to the things being taught, but they always got it. There's no smarter basketball players. There were no smarter basketball players than Indiana players. if you look back during Bob Knight's time, man, they didn't make many mistakes. And that was that's also a key to winning, because the practices were geared towards perfection. That bar that I talked about earlier of setting that bar sometimes absurdly high, Bob Knight did that. He chased perfection. He chased it with wins in 74 and 75. He chased it every day in practice with doing it right every time. Now, is perfection achievable? No. But guess what? If you are striving for perfection and you get close, you're going to be pretty damn good.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting to me about the difference between what made him a genius back then, I don't know if anybody, the way the game is played and the way the data and the analytics run, I don't know if anybody can really, would you say, I feel like you could say Steve Kerr with Steph Curry completely changed the game of basketball. The way the Golden State Warriors, the Splash Brothers and the advent of, and maybe it was even Mike D'Antoni, the Phoenix Suns. He was a big 3-point shooting guy. So there's been another transformation in basketball, but it's going to be awfully difficult. I'm sure at some point we're going to see another revolution of the game and how it continues to grow. I just don't know how that's going to happen.
First it was Bird and Magic.
Right.
And that,
yeah, but that was more of a play. That was a playing thing. That wasn't like scheme.
No.
That was right.
Well, but Golden State's not a scheme. It's just playing too. Just Steph Curry just knocks down the stupid 3-pointer from stupid distances.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is they bought into the theory, and I think it was Mike D'Antoni, or I can't ever pronounce his last name, from the Phoenix Suns, who came up with the theory about shooting, basically getting to the rim or shooting threes and not settling for, free throw extended jump shots. And once they bought into that, the game has completely changed. I mean, it's not uncommon to see NBA games be scored in the 140s. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what the next revolution of the game was. Yes, you're right. Bird and Magic obviously revolutionized the game, but that was more of a rivalry, two great players going at it, as opposed to scheme and style.
But they were very, very different as well. We've got to take a break. That's coming up. More here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Metalworks Brewery, served at all the Endeavor Hospitality restaurants, or you can go right to the source, located right off the square on 6th Street in Bloomington. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
You'll have to redo that one, RC. Did you hear that? He sounded like John sounded like what are those damn Marvin?
It sounded normal.
Alvin and the Chipmunks. He sounded like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
It didn't sound,
I caught it. I caught it.
It didn't sound like it here either, but it sounded normal to me and Dustin, but I'll listen later. I don't know what's going on with Dylan. I texted John.
Dylan? Hey, Dustin, was Dylan on yesterday?
No.
I didn't think so.
We talked about him coming on today, but
he was supposed to have been on yesterday.
Oh.
He's in the email this morning, yeah.
I gotta send a shout out to Kit Klingelhofer. Don't let me forget to do that.
Cliff Klingelhofer.
Kit, K-I-T.
Kit.
He is a former professor of mine, Chris. But also there's Dylan Sinn.
Oh, it's a full house. Chris and Dylan have joined us.
Love it.
I'm going to throw on courtroom, and then we'll go live here in a second.
Hi, guys.
Hey, guys. Hey there.
Dylan, can you stay with us after Chris Denari leaves as well?
Sure.
I screwed up. I think I screwed up because I was like, all right, what? You were going to come on yesterday, weren't you?
No, we said Thursday.
Okay, maybe that's an old text. I'm Chris, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Chris has just been out digging in the dirt, Dylan. So his life is
I got my off-season beard going.
I was
sure
that. I saw that. And I was like, he's usually on it, man.
No reason.
Right, we go live.
Oh, do we?
5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, April 27th. Appreciate everybody joining us. Before I forget, shout out to one of my old professors at IU and the former SID there, Kit Klingelhofer, longtime SID at IU during the Bob Knight years, Bill Mallory years. And Kit went through he was the SID for everything, football and basketball, by the way. Now they have an SID for football, basketball, baseball, soccer, men's soccer, women's soccer, everything. But anyway, Kit just going through a procedure and resting and recovering. So thinking about you, brother, and I hope to see you back out and at it again soon. Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers and Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Chris, you don't have to worry about the draft tonight, man.
No, I don't have to worry about a draft until in June. But I'm anxious to see what happens tonight. I talked to some of my other radio buddies, and I said, it seems like for 60 straight days, you guys have talked about the same thing, which that's, who's going to go number 1, who's going to go number 2, how many quarterbacks are going to go in the top 3 or 4. So I think it'll be fascinating to watch. And I just want to reach out, Jim, what you said about Kit. I've known Kit a long, long time. In fact, I became a sports information director at the University of Indianapolis a lot because of Kit and Jim Vrigink at Purdue. I had worked with them as a young media member. And when I lost my job a couple of times early on, I was looking for work. And I remember asking those guys, what's it take to be an SID? And just one of the best. And you're right. I mean, back in the day, you had very few people in a sports information office. You had to wear a lot more hats than they have to wear now. And there's no question Kit was one of the best. So all the best to him.
Not only do you have to wear a lot more hats, but he was the SID under Bob Knight. That's a job by itself.
There's no question. I dealt
come with hazard pay.
Yeah, I dealt with Kit. Many of the NCAA tournaments that were hosted by Indianapolis in the late 80s and early 90s, I was a part of because I worked at Butler, and we were one of the hosts. And so IU and Coach Knight were, a number of years at the Hoosier Dome or the RCA Dome, and Kit was along by the side. So there's no question that Kit at time had his hands full, but was always a great representative of the university and was a lot of fun to be around.
And before I forget, we're planning on being up at the Speedway in Indianapolis in May, of course, to do the show for a couple of days this year for the running of the Indianapolis 500. Hopefully we can be up there on the Thursday and Friday. Is Carb Day now Friday?
Yeah, Carb Day's Friday. It's the Friday before the race.
It used to be Thursday.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it used to be a different date. It's been Friday for so long that I can't even remember, but it's always the Friday for us. From a radio perspective, that's where we'll go out in the corners and pretend it's the race. I mean, you usually have all 33 cars out there all at the same time. It's a good dress rehearsal for us. And so looking forward to that. This will be, I'm not quite to 25 years in turn 4, but it's getting there. So looking forward to that again. It's always a great month. I think it's already been an exciting start to the IndyCar season, and we'll see what happens. You've got the race in Alabama, and then you've got the road course race and then of course the Indianapolis 500 at the end of the month.
And I'm still hoping to be your water boy. I can be because how high up are you on your perch?
Well, in turn 3, it's not as high as you are in turn 2. Like during August, I'll be in turn 2 for the NASCAR road course race and the IndyCar road course race. And I've told you guys, I think I sent you pictures last year of that. That's Dustin. That's a little high. You're climbing up. You're climbing up and you're looking down and you're thinking, man, if I fall, that's a long way to fall.
And how much platform space do you have?
Oh, it's a decent amount of platform space. Once I get up on that platform,
so there's room for me up there.
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah. Once I get up on that platform in August, I'm not coming down until I have to.
That's what I'm saying. I'm your guy.
And turn 4.
Jim, I need a Coke. Man, I go down the damn stairs.
There ain't no stairs.
There's no stairs. Well, there's a
ladder, whatever, you know.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to assure
have
you.
Have them put in a fireman's pole.
Jim, I'm going to assure you that once you see that ladder, you're not going to go up and down that ladder very many times. Now,
our Hillford mountain climber, baby.
Our spot in turn 4 is more of a basket on the top of the bleachers, and I didn't like it the very first time I went up there, but I've gotten so used to it, it's no big deal.
Did you have like a beanbag chair up there?
Oh, no, there's no chance for a beanbag chair. The problem in turn 4 is there is no covering. You are out there in the elements. If it's hot, you can't put an umbrella up because it'll blow away.
Chris, my man, once again, Jim to the rescue. I'm there holding the umbrella, shielding you, alternating which way the sun moves.
You know what I could see, Dustin? It would be like Jim would be like Mary Poppins, and he would be blowing away with that umbrella up into the yeah. So
start singing chimney, chimney.
Chase Briscoe out of turn 2 and Mary Poppins sliding down. What? Yeah. But I'm looking forward to that, man. I'm looking forward to it.
This is the thing. We'll be up there. I think I mentioned this to Chris last year. The part going up doesn't bother me, but I would need a bucket truck to come up and get me to come back down, because trying to maneuver yourself to come down the ladder and you're staring down at the ground the entire time, that's what frightens me. I can look up and not look down and make it up okay. It's the coming down part.
Well, the other thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing is, you have a backpack on, and you've got, your work and stuff in the backpack, and you're hoping that balances you enough that when you climb up, part of it is climbing down. I don't even like when the person before me goes down and I toss that backpack down to them. I'm a little leery that I'm gonna toss it and it'll, go the wrong way.
Right.
But as you can tell, I'm not a big heights guy, so
I'm not either.
So the fact that I've been able to do this for a long time, I guess is a good thing.
Absolutely, Dylan. I'll have to have you come up or down that week if you want. I'd love to. Hopefully, we're going to do the show up there Thursday and Friday from the spot and have you down there. That would be a blast to do that. We've got you ought to go, and you should go down to Louisville with me next weekend, Churchill Downs for the Kentucky Derby.
Man, on location, huh?
Wow. I mean, it's just a Jim Coyle road show. I think go down, Jim. I think you ought to go down where Dustin is and play around to golf and do the show.
There you go.
If I had the time, Chris, I would. I am the hardest working man in radio, man. Hey, it doesn't matter if it's the Big Ten tournament, we're going. The NCAA tournament, we're going.
Well, I was going to say this. What's even created more work for you is the portal, right? I mean, the portal.
Oh my God,
the portal has become, just an immense thing.
It's an everyday. The difference between the portal and regular recruiting is this is an everyday, every hour of the day thing, because it could pop. Those things can pop at any time. and they're much heavier weighted. You land a portal guy, it's generally bigger than most recruits because all recruits are freshmen, first of all, and not all recruits are high-end freshmen that are going to impact your game or your season coming up. So that's why the portal is such a huge deal. It's been a game changer, but I have to say I like it to a degree because of what we saw at the NCAA Final Four this year. And I'm not sure it's going to always stay quite that way, but there's no way that it's not going to be and remain a great equalizer in college basketball. In college football, not so much, somewhat, but in college football, the rich are going to stay rich because you've got NIL to add to that. But in basketball, it just takes 5 guys, man. And there's been too many instances throughout the years of basketball of upsets just because 5 guys playing together, playing right on the right day can beat anybody.
Yeah, and I think, did you see Mike DeCourcy's column that he wrote for Sporting News? And I think it's about how the NIL, or not the NIL, portal has created a free agency in basketball. People in the NBA, people in the NFL with the draft, you get enamored off the field, off the floor with what's happening. Now, college basketball has always had that with, as you said, recruiting. But now the portal has changed things because at the end of the year, if your team didn't have as good a year as they thought, now all of a sudden there's hope because XYZ coach, right, Dustin, can go into the portal and sort of change the landscape of his team. As the former voice of Butler basketball, I try to follow that, closely. I mean, Thad Matta's team is going to look very different from the team that he had this year, that he basically inherited from LaVall Jordan. He had a number of players go into the portal to leave, and he's gone into the portal to get it. So it's made it a pretty interesting situation as far as recruiting is concerned.
Yeah, and I think
those are my dogs too.
Somebody who has to cover basically every team in the state of Indiana is Dylan, and so I'm sure that it's on the football and the basketball side. I'm sure it's what I always thought when I was covering college football was it created more off-season content, and I'm sure that it's all a blessing and also a nightmare to try to do that for so many different schools.
Oh, I mean, it's nuts, right? Like right now is one of the busiest times of the year and probably will be going forward because you have the basketball portal is open, obviously, and this is kind of the biggest time of the season for basketball. But now you have the football portal has also reopened, and it's only open from April 15th to April 30th for guys to jump in. So people are going in the portal all over the place right now. And then basically you'll have this rush probably in May and June of guys finding new teams for summer workouts. So it's a really busy time of the year right now. And we've seen 12 guys in the portal between IU, Purdue, and Notre Dame for football alone in the last 3 days. And yeah, you got to keep up with that in addition to following basketball with Xavier Johnson coming back. In addition to I'm covering baseball right now. It is a really busy time.
Yes, and the thing is, it doesn't stop because AAU has already started. High school is not even out yet. High school is not even over yet. Let out yet, and they've already started AAU play, Chris. They have this weekend. It's again they're in Phoenix. One is in Phoenix. I think that's the Nike EYBL. I think Adidas 3SSB is in Bryan, Texas. Guys like Flory Badunga and Indiana Elite and those guys, I think they're playing down in Texas. But that's already started. So these guys are in high school during the week right now, off on the weekends playing these tournaments that will go through the summer. And it's a nonstop thing. And the coaches are now, they're recruiting these guys and recruiting the portal. So now you've got to recruit. While you're recruiting, they're looking at who you're getting out of the portal. And it's like, gee, it's becoming a tricky deal.
Yeah, in that regard, I can't imagine the stress that it puts on a coaching staff from a standpoint of you got to worry about these AAU tournaments and your high school kids that, you know, you're in on as a sophomore and as a junior because you got to be there, you got to be seen, and then you're into the portal. And so it's interesting because, you know, you've got the on the pro side of it where you're an assistant coach. All you have to worry about is coaching, right? All you have to worry about is working with your players because there's somebody else in the front office that's worried about free agency and trades and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's really interesting to see how all of that impacts them. And then you try to zero in, and Dylan, you know, when do these coaches now, when do they have? Because, you know, back when I worked in college basketball, you know, at Butler, you know, you didn't have the same opportunities in the summer to work with your teams as you do now. I mean, basically, it's become a year-round opportunity for you to work with your players. So, yeah, it's just fascinating to see. As you said, I think for the fans, and that's what Mike DeCourcy's article was about, for the fans, it's awesome because it creates a year-round buzz. You know, after the Final Four, it used to sort of go dead, right? From a college basketball standpoint, it's not dead anymore because of
it was straight to just AAU was filler. AAU, because there's not a lot that comes out of it. You're just some games you're covering, and so there's not a lot of that. Well, now AAU is just the salt on top of the portal. Yeah. In essence, for as far as content goes, Dylan, would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The portal is your entree, and yeah, the rest is just the salt or the sides now, which is fine for us in a degree of content. But damn it, Jim needs a vacation, man.
I'll tell you this. I as someone who kind of to illustrate how much people care about like portal stuff and stuff like that, I wrote a story last week. So IU missed on Chris Ledlam, they missed on Dalton Connect, and so I wrote like kind of just a fairly basic post about, okay, what now? Here, who are some guys that IU should target now that are in the portal that would fit for them? 1,000 words or so, something like that. That was the most read story in our entire newspaper for the last week and a half. And that is not usually the case for sports stories. We have people covering city council and school board meetings and all of that kind of thing. People read that stuff usually. Sports is not always at the top, but this was far and away the thing that people read the most for like a week and a half. And like people care about this stuff. Yeah, people care about this stuff. It really is like free agency. People are like, we're trying to turn our team over. It's taking the excitement of recruiting, which only some people get into, and compressing it into like 2 or 3 weeks. And it basically, you're finding out how good your team's going to be in real time, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I let Chris go, boy, could have been a lot of places with that. Chris go. The NBA playoffs.
I'll tell you what, they've been
Milwaukee. Yeah, there you go. Milwaukee. Wow. Didn't see that coming.
No, twice they've had double-figure leads in the fourth quarter and lose. And Jimmy Butler shows, you know, just how talented a player he is and how he can carry a team. And, you know, if the Lakers can close out Memphis in Game 6, which I think would happen in LA, look at the upsets that you've had. Now, you know, are you going to say LeBron James and the Lakers beating the Grizzlies is an upset? Well, it is based on their seeds. You look at Miami bouncing Milwaukee, New York beating Cleveland. These are as many upsets in first rounds as we've had in some time. And so I think it gives a lot of credence, guys, to what the play-in now is about, because you've got the Lakers with a chance to advance out of the play-in. You have the Heat with a chance to advance out of the play-in. That would be 2 play-in teams moving on to the second round of the playoffs. So I think that's all good and healthy for the NBA. The playoff ratings have been fantastic, some of the best in 20 years. I think the games have been really, good. You've got a game 6 coming up, Sacramento and Golden State. That could be another upset, if you will. So you could have 4 lower seeds win in the first round of the playoffs, and I'm not sure when that's happened. I was going to do some research today to look at that, but it's been a lot of fun to watch, and should be a great May into June.
Absolutely, looking forward to that. Can't thank you enough, Chris. Look forward to talking to you next week, and we'll see where they are and what's going on.
All right, thanks, guys. See you.
And we'll see how the plants are.
All right, take care.
Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got more coming up with Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette and Dustin Schutte. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
What up? What the hell?
All right.
He got.
What are you doing? Are you doing a Superman thing or something?
I gotta teach these kids, and I gotta look older than them.
I gotta teach these kids, you little.
I gotta raise America's youth.
Come here.
What do you all babble about sports?
Babble is right. Babble. I could use Babble. Isn't Babble the speech teaching thing?
And the Tower of Babel.
Oh, don't forget the Tower of Babel. How are the Tin Caps?
They are not good. They're quite bad. They're the worst team in the Midwest League by 3 full games, 17 games into the season. I did not know that was possible.
That's crazy.
They are rough. And it's funny because they have a ton of talent, at least on paper, right? The Padres gave them like 11 of the top 30 prospects in the Padres farm system. And this is basically the same team that won the Cal League at low A last year. They just basically promoted the entire team up to high A, and it has just not gone well in the slightest. So,
all right, fellas, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, April 27. Hope you're having a good day and a good week. And if not, well, forget about it. Forget about it. It's over. We'll start a new one for you. It's the end of the week. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette's with me, as is Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com, as he always is. Of course, big news for Indiana, Dylan, with the announcement that Xavier Johnson's medical hardship waiver was approved by the NCAA. I wasn't surprised because I was expecting from the conversations I'd had, the people I talked to, they weren't concerned. I know that wasn't that long ago that we just saw what was the kid from transferred to Duke from Michigan, Joey.
Hart? Hart. Yeah.
That his was denied, but the difference was Joey Hart was trying to get his very first year back 5 years ago. And he had averaged over 30 games a year for the last 4 seasons. And Xavier's trying to get his final year back. And he had another year where he only played 16 games, by the way. So, but anyway, he will be back for Indiana for certain. You can stop worrying about that. That's a piece that you don't have to worry about. But people are still wondering, as we continue to talk about the need for shooting for Indiana and scoring, or both in one package. But it's a glaring need, and not many Division I teams of Indiana stature has 3 open scholarships right now.
Yeah, I mean it's not they're. The way I put it in the story that I wrote last week was that basically it's not panic time, I don't think, just because there are still plenty of solid players in the transfer portal that you can go get. There some of the bigger names are not. Some of the bigger names have gone off the board, but there are still probably some that haven't even entered the portal yet. And there are still some very good players in the portal that you can go get. But what I did say is that I think Indiana thought they would be further along at this point than they are, right?
Well, they went all in on these on these two guards. I mean, they
did,
which I mentioned earlier. I'm like, well, that's a problem. You cannot go all in and have no backup plan. Even if you go all in, you still have to have a reliable plan B, and obviously, I guess that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly what conversations they've had behind the scenes, right? We don't know if there was some kind of backup plan that they put together that they're kind of pivoting toward now. But there's still time for them to get involved with plenty of guys as we go forward here. I don't think it's time for there's no way we're going to get guys next season. We're going to have to play with 10 guys or any of that kind of stuff. I still think that they should have gotten involved with Brandon Newman. I'm going to say that all of this offseason into next year when he's averaging 20 points on 40% three-point shooting at Western Kentucky, where he transferred to yesterday. But
Western Kentucky. Kentucky.
Yep. He's teaming up with Christian Lander there. So, yeah. But obviously Indiana did not make him a priority when he got into the portal. But there are still guys in there. I think CJ Frederick is another guy, transfer from Kentucky, previously played at Iowa.
But he's at Cincinnati.
He transferred to Cincinnati. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there are still guys available, but it's going to be kind of a pivot that IU has to execute here over the next couple of weeks.
Sometimes I wonder too, when it comes to the transfer portal, and we talk about, we don't know, like you said, Dylan, it appears that Indiana didn't maybe have a backup plan. But we don't know what those conversations were like. It also makes me wonder, what were the conversations when you go all in on some guys? It makes you wonder what they were told initially. Like, yeah, we just we're what was, did they feel, how comfortable did they feel that those guys were going to sign? And did Tennessee swoop in at the last second? And it was a shock. Like, that's the stuff that's always interesting to me, because you don't know behind the scenes what kind of conversations the coaches and the players are having. Indiana might have said, this is a lockdown deal. We don't need to recruit anybody else. They've told us they're coming here. And then all of a sudden with NIL, who knows what an offer could have been from Tennessee as opposed to what they could have gotten at Indiana, or playing time, or the opportunity to win, whatever the case might be. There's just so many different factors, and I think that's why it makes the transfer portal so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Chris Ledlum, it seemed by all accounts that IU was convinced he was coming, right? And that's obviously an issue. You never want that to happen. And I think it's kind of a double whammy, because not only were they convinced he was coming, but I think that they were so convinced that it convinced Jamison Battle that he was coming. Because Jamison Battle was another guy they were involved in early on, kind of the same position as Chris Ledlum, that bigger wing that can shoot a little bit from the outside, that would have fit in really well with what IU needed. Jamison Battle seemed like he was considering IU pretty strongly, and then chose Ohio State instead. And you wonder if Chris Ledlum had chosen Tennessee, and then Indiana had been able to say, well, we have a spot for you, basically, with Jamison Battle, how that goes differently. So it's kind of a double whammy. It seems like Tennessee swooped in right at the end with Ledlum. The rumor was that they had kind of, basically a part of their pitch was, you don't want to play in the Big Ten. Look at how physical it is. You don't want to play in that league. That was kind of Tennessee's pitch at the end, and apparently that convinced him, at least in part. I'm sure, I am certain there was some kind of NIL component, although Indiana has been, by all accounts, pretty good in the NIL space. I don't think they would have gotten some of the recruits they've gotten over the last 2 years here without having a very, very solid NIL, especially we have Jalen Hood-Schifino running around saying, I had a great time at IU. Everyone should go to IU. I don't think Jalen Hood-Schifino would be going around saying that if IU hadn't taken care of him through NIL. But it's a loss, right? And so Dalton Connect was another one where I don't think they were ever convinced that he was coming, just because they couldn't get him even to come on campus, right? Like that they tried to get him to take a visit, and they couldn't even do that. And then when he and Ledlum went to Tennessee together, I think at that point, because they visited Tennessee together and then committed within a day or two of each other a couple days later, I think at that point, that's when Indiana had to start saying, okay, Ledlum might be less of a sure thing than we thought. And that's when you have to start pivoting. But these guys want to take a little bit of time. So even if you start pivoting, then it's going to take a week or 2 or 3 for that to start bearing fruit. So I think it's going to be a little bit before we see a few more commits for Indiana, and they probably won't be at the same level that they would have if they'd gotten Ledlum or Connect. I do think that I still think there are guys out there that are available that you can find, very, very talented players. But it's going to be longer into the offseason before this roster is settled than I think IU wanted.
Yeah, and now it's still there with some questions, of course, but school's not let out yet, and these players won't even make it to campus till June. So we're in April. It's not like this has to happen tomorrow or next week. But as you said, because there are still guys in the portal, but have they missed out on the guys that could have really helped them because they were just too narrow? Were they? I don't know. I know you can't answer this and I can't answer this, but I wonder, were they just too narrow focused? I've mentioned this a couple of times. Man, they went all in on Ledlum and Necht, and it's like they put all their eggs in one basket without a backup plan. And boy, it failed miserably because you not only do you not get one, you lose them both to the same damn school, which I don't know how that happened. But it just seems like they're missing out on too many other good ones.
Yeah.
By failing to have been engaged.
Yeah. I mean, I think Caleb Love was a significant miss for them. I don't know how much he was considering Indiana. I know they said there was interest there. I don't know if they kind of were off of him and on to other people. I think that was a significant miss. I think letting Michigan kind of get him over you when you have had a track record over the last couple of years of being really good at developing guards, I think that he would have worked very well under Mike Woodson. And now you have to play against him next year. That's a significant miss for me. Jamison Battle, again, pretty significant miss. And I think that one is related to going all in on Chris Ledlum. It hasn't been a total collapse because obviously Khalil Ware is a fantastic player or fantastic talent who could be a fantastic player. And that's a huge kind of boon to your recruiting. I think Peyton Sparks is a very important addition who will help them for the next couple of years. So they've gotten some players. I don't think you can say it's been a total failure. But I mean, going into the offseason, we knew that this was going to be a process, right? Like the way that last season was set up, and I think we kind of talked about this with Zach Osterman last week, was last season was set up as the year to go get it, right? Like the idea was you had such a good season last year that it convinces people in the portal this year that you are on the rise and they want to be part of that. And I think the problem was that a second round NCAA tournament run was not good enough for the amount of chips they put on last year. And I think that's kind of the problem, right? Is that a second round NCAA tournament run in a vacuum for Indiana over the last couple of years is a pretty good season, right? It's the best season they've had since 2016 by a pretty wide margin. They were a very, very good team down the stretch of the regular season. They just happened to run into a team that was probably underseeded, Miami, in the second round. But that they needed to be better than that for what they wanted to do this offseason. I think that was kind of the concern going into the offseason was, and I said this on Twitter and I got some pushback, which is like, it's my thought was it seemed to be Sweet 16 at the minimum for what they wanted to do this offseason. And people were like, well, does one game in the tournament matter that much? And I was like, yes, because there's just something about getting to the second weekend of the tournament that feels different than losing in the second round. It's you're being talked about for an entire another week.
Right.
There's just kind of that sense that you're one of the elite teams in the country, that you made it through the craziness of the first weekend. Right. And they didn't. And it's you needed a boost from the end of the season to boost what you were trying to do in this offseason. They didn't get that, and I wonder how much of that is paying fruit right now.
Well, and I wonder too, when Jim, you mentioned them casting a wider net, you also kind of have to strike a balance in that you want to get the best players. And if you are out talking to 6 or 7 different guys and those guys want to commit right away, what do you do? Because if you tell them, well, hold on now, we're talking to some other guys here, they're going to go somewhere else. So you've got to try to strike this delicate balance, in my opinion. I don't know that you need to cast a wider net. I think the problem is more of what Dylan said, in that you don't have the amount of success that you need to attract some of these players. Again, I know we're still early in Mike Woodson's tenure, but 2 years, the way they have played basketball the past 2 seasons is not going to be appealing to wings or guards. And then the style of the play in the Big Ten, where it's physical, you have to go up against big guys, the fouling situation. It's a very physical, aggressive league. That's not going to be appealing to a guy that wants to play run and gun style and get open threes, and he just doesn't want to get his ass kicked every single game, basically. Like that's what it boils down to. So I don't even think it's a matter of casting a wider net. Now, I'm not saying they should have just targeted 2 to 3 guys and that's it, but I don't. If you are recruiting 2 or 3 guys for 2 or 3 scholarship spots, or excuse me, if you're recruiting 5 or 6 guys for 2 or 3 scholarship spots, and you have those 2 or 3 guys that are maybe on the back burner, and they're like, I want to commit, and you say, whoa, those guys are not going to stick. They're not going to be there. They're not going to wait on you. They're going to go somewhere else where they're a priority. And so I think that is also the problem as to why maybe Indiana missed out on some of these other guys, not just named Connect and
Ledlam. Yeah. Like I said, I think that might have been what happened in a sense with Jamison Battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not saying he told IU he was going to commit, but I'm saying he asked IU, what kind of playing time am I going to get? And they're like, well, we have another guy who we think is going to commit at your same position, so you'll have to fight for it. And he was like, well, I'll just go to Ohio State where I'm going to start right away.
Right.
You know, right. I think that there's a very plausible scenario in which that happened.
The part about that bothers me and basically pisses me off. When I played sports, nobody guaranteed me jack.
Well, sure.
I started, but I had to work and earn those spots. And no coach ever treated it that way. That's ridiculous. If you think you're that damn good, you should be going to the NBA draft.
It's recruiting.
Well, yes,
I get it, but it's ridiculous and stupid.
And I'm not saying that Ohio State promised him a starting spot or anything like that. I'm saying he looked.
Well, they
at the
probably
roster.
could. They sucked last year. They probably could.
But he probably looked at the rosters and did the math, right? He probably asked both of them, who else do you have coming? What is the situation here? And if IU told him, well, we also have Chris Ledlam coming in. We'd love to have both of you. It'd be great competition. And Ohio State said, well, we don't have anyone at your position and we really need you. Where are you going to go? Right? What are you going to choose?
Just like I said, putting all your eggs in one basket, counting them before they're hatched. Right. And they didn't.
I mean, and it's possible, like, it is recruiting, like Dustin said, it's possible that Ledlam told them, hey, I'm going to commit. I just want to go on a visit to Tennessee first. And then he changed his mind at the last minute, right? And so if they got some kind of quasi behind the scenes commitment from Ledlam, and then he kind of changed his mind at the last minute, that's how the game works, right? That's just how you have to be ready for that to happen. And if IU wasn't, maybe that's on IU, but I feel like they were.
Here's the thing.
Ready.
But here's the thing. I'll be honest with you. I would have said, hey, you're going to have every opportunity to play as much as you want. Your position is our most glaring need. And yes, we're recruiting other people, but we need multiple people in those spots, and they do. And then, but at the end of the day, if you're a player and a competitor, hey, you better have confidence in your abilities to get your ass onto the floor. And if you don't, that's on you. And because I don't want to play for a team, if I'm not deserving of those minutes, I don't want to be playing for a team that's playing someone like me who doesn't deserve minutes. because we're not going to win, and I want to win. It's the main goal. Man, we're going to go right to the end here. We're getting close. Boy, it was fun. See, that's why you got to looking forward to having Dylan on with us, especially because don't forget we'll be starting on, for those of you up in the Fort Wayne area, on the Fan here in a few weeks. So looking forward to that. How is the Fan most popular station up there in Fort Wayne, isn't it?
Yeah, 1380 in terms of sports, absolutely.
Yes, sir. Look forward to that, and we'll be. I think it's going to end up being 107.5 FM. They're switching some things around up there, but looking forward to that. How's the rest of your week looking?
Yeah, I'm taking the rest of this week off. My brother is getting married, so
what is it? Everybody gets a vacation in life but me?
my brother is getting married, but next week I will be back. We have the Bill Hensley Memorial Run and Slam here in Fort Wayne next week, one of the biggest AAU tournaments of the summer across the country here in Fort Wayne. Many good players will be here, so I will be covering that. Probably there's 5 different buildings there they have games in, so I'll be trying to zip around to see all of the players involved and talk to them about Indiana, about Purdue, about all of it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely, and we'll have all that coverage for you at thehoosier.com as well. I like Bussy will have that for you, so make sure you tune in there. Hey, we're back tomorrow to do this all again. We'll have the results from tonight's NFL draft. What will the Colts do? We'll find out tonight. What do you think?
Anthony Richardson. That's what
I said. That's my pick as well. Dustin, who do you think they pick?
I think that's where they're going.
Anthony. That's where they're going, and that's where they should go.
Well, that's where they've been left to go. Hey, thanks everybody. Again, big thanks to Dustin. Thanks to Matt Taylor. Thanks to Dylan Sinn, of course, Chris Denari, RC for filling in today for John, keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Back tomorrow to do it all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
I'll fix that. I have that a separate clip. All right, I'm gonna end the broadcast here.